Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. If you've not joined me before, my name is Melissa Joyce, and if you have, welcome back. Today is a video that should have been out yesterday, and for a number of reasons I wasn't able to get it filmed, but I wanted to get it done today. And that is the results of our last 2 weeks of BB Cream Showdown, and that is between the e.l.f. BB Cream that I was testing for a week and the Rimmel BB Cream Matte that I was testing for a week. I did first impressions videos of both of these and wear tests where you saw me putting them on for the first time, wearing them through the day, commenting on how they wore. Now for both of those I used them without any kind of primer, with no kind of setting spray and just minimal powdering just to see how they worked in that way. And then I have been trying them since with different primers that I own, different powders, different ways of wearing them and seeing which one I liked. And then I am going to choose a winner. Before I get into telling you my choice, I will give you some of the pros and cons that I noticed about each. I will say that these have actually very similar pros and cons, and it is mostly pros. So these two are very stiff competition for each other, but if either of these had been tested, I believe, against any of the previous BB creams that I've tested, they would have been the winner. Like, I feel like these two are far and away better than the other ones that I've been trying, or at least for me, they have been. Let me start with the e.l.f. BB cream and what I noticed as pros and cons. I did notice that as pros of this, it did offer good coverage. It wore well through the day. It is excellently priced. This is a very inexpensive BB cream. As I said, good coverage. It did start to get a little bit oily in my first impression video, but I did find that using some powders with it and a matte primer, using a matte primer and powdering my face a little bit more, that this held in really nicely through the day. It has a pump on it, which is the first one that we've seen so far in any of the BB creams. And especially for one of the least expensive ones that we've used, other than the dollar store one, it is really nice. I did enjoy using this. As far as the cons, I found that this was a little bit warm toned for me. It did sheer out a little bit more than I want it to, especially when I was using it with a beauty blender, and a beauty blender really is my preferred way of using any kind of foundation or BB cream on my face, but it can sheer out a BB cream a bit too much, and I did find that did that a little bit. With the pump, actually I'm gonna open this pump up. Yeah, so the pump part is, like, it's not a tube that runs all the way through. That actually opens up very easily. So the bottle, like, the contents of the bottle run down and the pump only goes that far into it. So when you're using it like this to pump out, which is what you would expect to be doing with a pump, as soon as you get past this much product so that it kind of settles down a little bit, it's not going to be pumping any product. So you kind of have to turn it over, but then using a pump that way is just not really that helpful. I would prefer if this either had a pump where the tube went all the way through, so it was actually pulling up product from the bottom, or, I mean, I actually don't mind the squeezy tubes that much the way the other BB creams came, because when you get down to a certain point, the tube goes about that far in that's a pump. So when you get down to the last bit of product, you're going to be unscrewing this and using it that way anyway. It's a minor con, but it is there. But I mean, the pros really outweigh the cons on this one. As far as the pros and cons of the Rimmel Matte BB Cream, there are far more pros than cons. I really like the coverage of this. I really like the way that it blends onto the face. You can use a beauty blender with this with no problem because the coverage holds up even when you're using a sponge to put it in with. I found that it was a liquidy consistency, but that actually worked quite nicely. I found the e.l.f. one almost had more of a thick consistency to it, and it's a little bit strange to be using a BB cream, which feels like it should be a little bit fresher, and have it be a thicker consistency. This one is a thin consistency. It really shears out nicely over the whole face, but still provides noticeable coverage and color correcting. I did find this one, and I think I mentioned this in the first impression, it held up quite well through the day, even with no primer and no setting powder, but it did perform significantly better when I did start to use some of those that I found really helped the matte of this. I just found this to work quite well for me. I guess as far as the cons of this go is, again, it is really warm toned. not really warm tone, but it's warmer tone than I am. So it's not a great color match, but at the same time I found if I used a powder that I'll talk about in a moment on top of it, that it was fine at that point, and you didn't really notice this being significantly the wrong color when I was wearing it through the day. I will also say for a con of this one, if we are comparing it, the Rimmel directly to the e.l.f., is this was more expensive. So for the same amount of product that performs fairly consistently, this one was more expensive. And I guess one of the things is going to be the winner that I choose today is really maybe a bit more dependent on your skin type, because if you have no problem with your T-zone getting oily, then you're not going to care as much about this being matte, and you might like that this has a little bit more, I don't want to say it has more luminosity to it, but you're not going to care that this starts to get a bit oily at some point during the day. So this was a really close competition, and if I'm going to choose a winner, it's going to be the Rimmel one, just by a hair. I have to say, for a lot of the BB creams that I've been testing, the week that I've been testing them, I've really been looking forward to going back to using my favorite foundation or something like that, because even though some of the BB creams were okay, like the L'Oreal one, I had good makeup days with it, but all of them weren't quite as good as how much I enjoy using my foundation. This I found I didn't mind using it, and in fact was reaching for it on days even when I wasn't testing a product. I just thought, oh yeah, I'll grab this. I'm having really good makeup days with this. And it is the one that I'm wearing today. I just find that for me, it really holds up nicely. Products blend really nicely on top of it. And I'll tell you the combination that I've been using with this that I find really works well. So I don't have a huge amount of primers that I have tried. I have sort of a few cheapy drugstore ones, an NYC one that's more of a smoothing primer. I am going to be doing a video on testing a new primer that I received in one of my subscription boxes in the next couple of weeks, and that's a Temptu bronzer, or not bronzer, primer. Have I been saying bronzer all this time? Sorry. But the first primer that I ever used is one that I have rebought and gone back to, and that is a Cover FX primer. It is the mattifying primer with anti-acne treatment, and I think I originally bought one of these years ago at Shoppers Drug Mart. This one I recently bought from Sephora. This is not the full-size one, but I'm just going off on a tangent here. This is half the size of the regular one, and it was in those samples that Sephora has, not samples, but the tinier travel size, like buy them on impulse items that were up near the cash. So I was actually standing in line with the full size of this ready to buy it. And I'm holding that in my hand, and then I see this and I pick it up and I looked at the amount, and this is 0.5 fluid ounces. The regular size is 1 fluid ounce. And this was less than half the price of the full size one. So I was like, I will buy many half size ones for less than half the price than full size ones that cost more than twice this. So as an aside, I really enjoy using this. I do find that it smooths my face. I do really find that it helps with mattifying, especially on my forehead, which is where I tend to get a little bit shiny by the end of the day. And the active ingredient in here, which is salicylic acid, is something that my skin seems to respond well to. So for both of these BB creams, when I use this underneath, it really helped with keeping any of the oiliness that I saw happening at like the 8-hour mark or anything like that out of the way. I really enjoy this. So I use this underneath as my primer. And this product looks so beat up, but I really enjoy using my Rimmel Stay Matte powder, and it's starting to crumble a little bit. So you can see, not only have I hit pan on this, I've accidentally dropped the container and it's gotten really, like I have to be so gentle with this now. It's drugstore, I can just go and buy another, but I really like this. I find this powder is wonderful at mattifying. It also has a little bit more of a neutral or even maybe a cool tone to it. So when I use the primer, then I use either one of these, but especially the Rimmel Matte BB Cream, and then put this powder on over top. It balances back to a shade that works really well for my skin. So I use a different kind of powder for my under eyes. And then what I tend to do with this is use a puff and sort of press it in there to get the powder, and then press it into my face. So into my forehead, cheeks, under my chin, around my nose a little bit, and that keeps everything so nicely matte. As an aside with this Stay Matte powder, I've also been using this for my eyes lately instead of actual eye primer. For doing my eyeshadow, I've been using some Benefit Erase Paste Concealer that is a really, for me, a thick consistency of concealer and is not quite the right shade for under eye concealing, but I've been using it on my eyes and then again pressing some of the Stay Matte on top, and it's been acting as a beautiful eyeshadow primer for me. So, bit of an aside, I found that the combination of that primer, the Rimmel Stay Matte BB cream, sorry, the Rimmel Matte BB cream, and the Rimmel Stay Matte powder, I have been loving the way that my makeup has looked for the last week when I have been using this product. I think I've also hit on like a bronzer that I really like and a few other things, a drugstore highlighter that I've been using that has been going on really well, and I've just been getting a number of days of really beautifully lovely looking skin. It's like when I use that combination and then a nice bronzer that I have and a nice highlighter that I have, it's like the skin is the star of the show lately, and that is not something that I usually find. Like, I've really been doing a lot of very minimalist eye looks and very nude kind of lips because I've really just been liking the soft, you know, poreless, beautiful look that I've been getting, and I think this BB cream has really been part of that. So, going on about this BB cream a lot, I think both of these are good options, and especially for the price of this one, like, give it a try. It's really good, and especially if you run a little bit more warm tone and don't tend to get oily, this is a really nice pick. I mean, I'm gonna keep using this one, but I really like the Rimmel Stay Matte. Rimmel Matte BB cream. It's been good, and I've had no issue with my skin for the last couple of weeks. You know, I haven't found that I've had any breakouts. If anything, I feel like these are doing good things for my skin because my skin has felt more balanced in the last couple of weeks than it has for a number of weeks before. So I am gushing about both of these. This one wins a little bit for me and my skin and how I like it to perform. But I would love to hear any comments you have on your favorite BB creams. Maybe some that are a little bit warmer toned, because I find, no, some that are a little bit cooler toned, because I find a lot of them tend to run warm. And not that that's a huge deal, but it'd be nice to find something that was just a little bit better for my skin tone. So that's everything I have to say. If you like this, give me a thumbs up. I have now actually gone through all of the BB creams that I initially bought, so I'm not too sure what I'm going to do next week, if I'm going to take a break from the BB cream Showdown series for a little bit, or if I'll go out and buy a couple more to test over the next couple of weeks, more of the inexpensive drugstore, or maybe even I'll order a couple online that are a lower price point. I do enjoy doing these, but as I said, I've run through the first 6 that I bought, so I'm gonna have to see what I do next. And if you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments down below. I always respond to every comment that I get. And if you've not subscribed, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you. And thanks so much for watching this. It's just so much fun making these videos and testing products. If there's any things that I'm not mentioning about the products that you would like me to talk about or think about or include in my reviews, let me know, and I will see you again soon. Bye!